Welcome to the Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry, Pollock, joined here today by Alan Rough and Brian Graham. Brian, the wheels are in motion now. The Scottish Premiership has kicked off. Give me your thoughts overall of what we've saw.
Obviously, first and foremost, I'll speak about Falkirk. I thought the lads were excellent on Sunday against a really good Dundee United side that finished fourth last year. Obviously, Jim's had them back a bit earlier than ourselves. They were 2 games in Europe, so we knew it was going to be a difficult game, but I thought that our attitude, first and foremost, to come back twice from a goal down was excellent. We would have loved to have got our noses in front, but overall, probably a point each was probably a fair result.
Other teams that we saw, we had 4 draws. Was that a surprise to you as well in the opening weekend?
It probably was a surprise to me, if I'm being honest, especially with coming 2-0 up, and then obviously the sending off changes the complexion of that game. And then obviously Rangers with their new manager going to Falkirk. I thought Rangers played well first half, but then I thought Motherwell were excellent second half. So it shows you there's competition all over the league this year. You throw in the 2 Edinburgh sides. Hibs obviously had a great result away at Dundee, and Hearts last night against Aberdeen I thought were absolutely fantastic under Derek McInnes. Tony Bloom's obviously sitting in the stand last night, and his comments in the last couple of days about what he won the league in the next 10 years. So it's refreshing for Scottish football. And obviously the champions got off their winning start on Flag Day, but it took them to the 86th, 87th minute, so it's been an entertaining weekend, that's for sure. Absolutely
has. Sticking with Falkirk then, albeit you weren't there last season, but what different challenges will they face this season?
Well, they're not going to dominate the ball as much as they did in the last 2 seasons, League One and the Championship. They still are a possession team, as you've seen at the weekend. We still try to play, but we'll need to mix it up a little bit. We know it's going to be an extremely challenging season, but we're not there just to make up the numbers. We're there to try and challenge and be as good as we can be. And with the manager and the staff that's round about the football club, that's the way it's going to be. He's got high standards. No stone goes unturned with John, and he's fantastic on the training pitch. And obviously he does a lot of analysis stuff as well. So the players are well prepped for whatever opponent we're playing against, and we've got to have that belief that regardless who we're playing against, we can go and try and win and get 3 points.
Do you feel that pressure of being the surprise package, as a lot of pundits have put on Falkirk so far already?
No, if I'm being honest with you, we're not really looking at that outside noise. We can only control what's in-house, and that's what we'll continue to do. We wanted 3 points at the weekend, but on reflection, as I said, a draw was probably a fair result. Now it's about training this week, dusting ourselves down, and the big one's out the way. The first one's always probably the most difficult one. Everybody's really the excitement for it. The fans are already there in big numbers, have bought huge season ticket numbers, so now we've got to wait a difficult game against Livingston, who were a championship side last year as well, under David Martindale, who's done extremely well, so it'll be another exciting game. And the thing is, this year you're not going to get any easy games, and we've got to be on it week in, week out, because if you don't, there will be bumps along the road, but we're expecting that. You're not going to come into the Premier League and just everything's going to be plain sailing, but we've got to be ready for those difficult moments and make sure we stick together as a team then.
I think it was refreshing for the outsiders watching 2 teams having a go. You know, generally you get one team trying to spoil the game, but as far as you were concerned at the weekend, I thought it was exciting to watch. It was end-to-end stuff, trying to win the game.
It was, and 4 goals was... Potentially could have been more goals in the game, but as I said earlier, the reaction from us to go 1-0, get it back to 1 each, and then we're obviously trying to get ourselves in front, but we get caught with a sucker punch, Dundee United, but we reacted really quickly and got that. Ethan Ross obviously gets his equaliser, so... And listen, any team could have probably won it on the day. It was 2 teams, as you said, having a right go at each other, and I think a lot of the games are going to be like that this year. I think I heard Stuart Kettlewell saying it's not going to be that big physical league, but it has been before. It's going to be teams going to go and try and play football, and I kind of agree with him.
Talk to us about the squad then, the Falkirk, your teammates. Who has impressed you since you've been in the doors?
I think we've got to touch on the 2 wide boys. I think Calvin Miller and Ethan Ross, I seen them up close in the Championship last year. I think they're going to really excite the league this year. They're 2 young boys. Obviously Ethan's slightly younger than Calvin, but the talent they've got with running with the ball can go both ways, and I think they'll light up the league. I think they're going to be really refreshing and exciting for the league. But there's other players. I think if you go to the middle of the park, you look at Dylan Tate, who scored a fantastic goal. Brad Spencer's the captain, standing while Cole Donaldson's injured at the moment. So we have got good players in our squad. The manager's probably still trying to add 1 or 2, because we've not added a lot. It's only been Scott Bain, Lewis Nielsen, Henry Cartwright and myself that have been added to that squad, and that is also refreshing because those players have got John and the staff to the Premier League, and he's stuck by them, and he's willing to give them a chance. For myself, walking into a new changing room, it was really, really easy because the boys were so open and you could feel that buzz about the place. You could see they've been on a high in the last 2 years, and it was excitement changing to walk into.
I was going to ask you that actually. Did that make it easier that there were so many leaders in that team already? A bit like yourself going in there?
Of course it does. I think that's always easier. And if it's Scott Arfield's experience as well, obviously Scott Bain coming to the club with a bit of experience, but the boys that have been there, it's not been an easy time for Falkirk over the last 5 years, well documented in the League One for a number of years, but when John went in there, he's got them winning invincible in League One, and then I thought they blew the Championship away. I know it went down to the last game of the season, but that early form that they've shown, they were absolutely fantastic, and they got their own merit, they won the league, and now he's stuck by, as I said, the majority of that squad, and he's looking ahead to the games coming up.
Do you feel the pressure to fight for your position more, having taken that step up?
I knew that was always going to be the case. At 37 years of age, nobody's going to expect you to play every single week, but me being me, I'll still train as hard as possible, and I'll still want to play week in, week out. There'll be times I probably won't, but I'm realistic. I knew that coming in the door, that was a team that have been brilliant the last 2 years. Players are going to be added. I quite enjoy that competition for places. I don't want to rest in my laurels. You've got to keep going, you've got to keep pushing yourself. It is a bigger challenge in the Premier League, definitely. It's different from when I was younger in the Premier League to it is at 37, but I thought I handled myself quite well at the weekend. Just disappointed I never really had a good, clear goal chance to go and score a goal, but I thought, other than that, I thought I had a good game.
I was going to say, from your point of view, your playing side, it must be refreshing having two wide guys who are going to give you the service that you want. That suits your style of play.
It does suit my style of play, and they'll probably say I've been moaning at them because sometimes I want the ball in a wee bit quicker, but they've been used to coming in and having pop shots, which is fine. That's their game, they're very good at it. They've scored many cracking goals while doing that. But sometimes when it goes over the bar or by the post, they've got this old grumpy man in the middle of the park saying, I think the boss should have come in the middle of
I think there was a stage on Saturday at the game when you were shutting one centre-half down, then shutting the other one, and then they found a way out, and the first thing you pointed to somebody to say, hey, get up here. Get up, shut up, I'm running about here like headless chicken, you're just standing there.
I know, but you'll do that at times, and listen, I'm experienced enough, I know I'm not going to be able to keep chasing 4 defenders about, but to be fair, the way the gaffer wants to play, he wants to play in the front foot, and he wants the wingers up pressing with me, he wants us to be a pressing team, and you've seen that at the weekend. There's times where we pressed them and then maybe our decision in the final third probably let us down, but overall I'm really excited to be at Falkirk, to work with John again, and just up close. Obviously I've spoke highly about him before, but seeing him again, it's refreshing how much hard work he puts into it, and the staff behind it, because he's got a great staff network as well, and I'm learning a lot off him. Obviously I'm at the tail end of my career, and managing is where I want to go, but I said that to him when I was signing for him. I'm not just signing here to be a player, I'm signing here to learn off you as well, because it's always important to learn off the best.
Absolutely. Well, you've obviously been a manager in the women's game, you're playing in the men's game. Is the next step to manage in the men's game as well?
I've said this to you before, I'm not ruling out getting back into the women's game. Obviously I had that 3 months at Partick Thistle with Mark Wilson at the end of the year, and I really enjoyed both the aspects of the women's game and the men's game. It doesn't really bother me what side. Football management, I've said that all the time. Football's football, it doesn't matter if it's female or male, and whenever I decide to hang up the boots, then whatever job's out there, that it doesn't matter if it's a women's game or the men's game, I'll be applying for it.
Absolutely, Roughie. Well, we're hanging on the words of Tony Bloom this week. He's put £10 million into Hearts, he's invested, and he feels like he could split the old firm with that. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think obviously going in there, he's shown the ambition that all the supporters want to hear. He's saying the right things. I think it'll be a hard task. It's not been done for a long time. So I think 10 million is a start. I think he would need a lot more than 10 million to split them eventually. He's obviously hoping that one of them, probably he's thinking the Rangers might take a couple of years to get themselves organised. So it puts a lot of pressure on the manager and the players, but I think that's what you're in the game for. You want to work under pressure, you want to respond to things like that, you want to achieve things. So it's a good start, but they have to keep winning.
Is 10 million enough, Brian, to do it?
Not for me, no. But as Roughie said, it is a start. I think they've got a really good manager, Derek McInnes. Obviously Alan Archibald's there, was one of the coaches when I first joined Partick Thistle. Fantastic guy as well. So they've got good people there. Derek clearly knows the league inside out. And I thought they were very good last night. I really enjoyed watching them. I really enjoyed watching my old teammate Harry Milne as well. I thought he was fantastic. His effort off the bar was really unlucky, but you could see the way I enjoyed playing with him because it was touch and it was in the box, and I was just actually watching last night thinking some of those balls were absolutely fantastic. I might have scored 1 or 2 last night if I was playing. But over time, you never know. Will they split the Old Firm? I'm not so sure, but it's refreshing to see he's coming in and he wants to do that as a challenge, because it would be great to someone to split them. You see the money coming into the leagues this year, the 49s with Rangers, Hibs have got backing as well. Now Hearts have got the 10 million, Celtic and Rangers have obviously got money, so there's going to be bumps along the road, because I don't think anybody's, except for example Celtic have obviously went invincible in the league before, that will not happen again for a couple of years, I don't think.
Do we need to upset the apple cart? Do we need that extra bit of excitement to the Scottish League?
I think we need a bit of threat. We need a bit of challenge. I think last year was disappointing because Hearts and Hibs and Aberdeen had horrendous starts. I mean, the 3 of them were in the bottom 6 for half of the season, you know, and that meant Rangers and Celtic had a sort of a free run, you know, but we like a challenge. We like to see Rangers and Celtic going to Hearts or Hibs or Aberdeen, and it's a right good game. It's not one-sided. It's not going to be 3 or 4 nothing. So a challenge is always good in any division, and I think we'll get that this year. I think there'll be lots of games, you know, that aren't going to be one-sided.
Are Old Firm fans perhaps dismissive to suggest that it could happen?
I'm not so sure about that, but if you're being realistic, will it happen? We don't know. It's not happened in such a long time. And just by throwing 10 million at a project doesn't mean you get success. It's about having the right recruitment, the right players to come in. For example, obviously we're talking about Hearts. Derek will have his eye on a few players, but obviously they've got the analytic, who's bringing the players in. Yes. So there's all these factors that we won't know what's going on in the day-to-day life at Hearts as a business, but it's refreshing that he's come out and said that, because maybe it puts a bit more pressure on Derek McInnes. But he said 10 years, so it gives him a wee bit of leeway. Yeah.
Is that maybe a pressure that he maybe didn't want to have on him, because he's the man that speaks to the media about these sorts of things?
Especially when it's his new job and it's his first game at Tynecastle, I don't think he probably needed that added pressure, but I thought the players responded to it last night. As I said, I thought they were great. They probably could have scored more goals, but overall they would probably have a 2-0 first game against Aberdeen, who have obviously won the Scottish Cup last year, and there'll be competition for places, and there'll be some upset results across the season as well, I think.
And it's clear, Roughie, that they've put last season behind them. They've come out, the trap's absolutely on fire so far. They're playing an aggressive nature under Derek McInnes. It is really refreshing to see.
It is, and I think the supporters in particular who have been through some tough times, and you know, they'll expect, like most teams, if they're not going to win the league, they want to win a cup. You know, they want to give it a good run. I just think that Derek going in there is, we've said, you know, that he's got a mindset of the players that he wants, the style of football he wants to play. And last night was an evidence. If that's the way they're going to play, you know, I'm sure a lot of teams are going to get a fright.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the headlines just keep coming. We're only 2 weeks in already. Honesty in football from managers, Brian, as we saw Russell Martin at the weekend. He absolutely filleted his team for that 1-1 draw against Motherwell. As a player, what's your reaction to that?
I've said this before, I think if a manager's being honest with you, sometimes you're not going to like it, but for me personally, I think it's refreshing that he's not just saying it in-house, he's obviously said it publicly as well, because he's setting his stall out nice and early, he's setting his standards. I've really been impressed by Russell Martin's press conferences. I think he speaks extremely well, comes across as if he knows what he wants, and he's got really high standards, and if people aren't pulling their weight in at Rangers, I'm sure that he will not stand there and allow it to happen.
It is a bit of an attitude, Roughie. If you don't like it, there's the door.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the individuals that you've got under. You know, a lot of players would say that if is it me? Is it me he's talking about? Is it somebody else? Some managers come to you and put an arm around you and say, look, I think you could do a wee bit better. But what he's done is scattered it into the dressing room, and players, good players will say, well, if it's me he's talking about, I'm going to be better. You know, but you might get 1 or 2 who might just say, oh, I'm not happy if it's me. And then again, you're looking at the first 2 substitutions he did. So I would think they 2 guys would be going, I think it's me he's talking about, because he's obviously substituted me, so I maybe have to get my act together here.
I think if he's saying it publicly, he's probably said it in the dressing room as well. I don't think...
If he's a good manager, he has.
And I don't know the guy, but just what I've seen of him so far, I'm liking the impression of him, I like the way he speaks, as I've said, but if he's saying that publicly, I've no doubt that he said that to them face-to-face in the changing room, and as a player, that's all you can ask for is honesty. Sometimes it's going to be good. For example, if you get the old arm around the shoulder and saying, well done, everything's rosy, brilliant, and you feel 10 feet tall, but that's not how it is in football. Sometimes you're going to have rough days, and you're going to need called out, because if you're not doing your job, then the manager's going to need to let you know, because you can't just keep going Monday to Friday thinking you're doing okay, turn up on a Saturday and really no perform. You've got to be at it, especially at this level, and the amount of challenges that are going to come this season. You need to be at it.
Has he taken a bit of a gamble? He's only in the door at Ibrox not that long. How does he know these players are going to react in the way that he wants them to?
I think you'll then find out on the park. You know, if he hasn't had a word with them, he in his mind he knows the players that he's talking about. So if he sees these players coming out tonight, it might be the same players he goes with. And if he sees them putting in a shift and they get a good result and they come away, then it's worked. You know, because the people he's been talking about have said to themselves, I need to be better. And if he gets a result, so be it.
You would have imagined, though, Brian, you've taken those players aside that he's talking about or referring to.
I don't really think he would have took them aside. I think he would have probably called them out in the changing room right after the game, because obviously he's come out and said that after the game, with the media after the game. So he's probably been heated in the changing room, because it was the first league game. Obviously they went through against Panathinaikos. Did they play extremely well? No, they didn't. But the objective of those two ties was getting through the tie. They did that. So you put that one aside. League is where it matters. You can see the Rangers fans are desperate to win the league. First game of the season. It's never easy going to Falkirk Park, but when they score that early, you expect Rangers to then kick on and get the second, potentially the third. But when that doesn't happen, you've always given Motherwell opportunities to say. And by the way, they had more than one opportunity to score a goal. They had numerous opportunities to score, but when the goal comes that late, it's a kick in the teeth to Rangers, because Russell Martin's probably might have got away with this here. But he said it, he was probably lucky to get a point.
I think he said as well, Roughie, though, if they won that game, he would have still have said the comments that he did. If they lost, it would have been the same.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's good. You know that that's his philosophy and that's the way he wants to work. You could see after it settled down a wee bit, whatever he said was picked up obviously by the media to make it high profile. But as the days went by, you could sit back and listen to what he said, and what he said was for the benefit of the team. So, you know, you've just got to hope you can get a reaction. But no, I think it just shows a positive man. He wants to win every game, and that's what you want to be in the game.
How do you balance it as a manager, Brian, when you want to say certain things? Do you hold back in certain situations, or is there certain people you can say things to?
No, I think you need to treat everybody the same. I know every player's different, don't get me wrong, but when it's that heated environment and match day where you've got 20 people that's competitive in a changing room wanting to win. And by the way, some of them might not even get on the pitch because you can only make 5 subs. So they're sitting there also raging. So if you potentially don't have a go at them and let them away, they're thinking, well, why am I not playing? So you need to try and balance the books. Not saying it's right to just go in and start shouting and bawling every single game. There's different ways of going about it. We don't know what's happened in the changing room. We can only go off what he's come out and said in the press. Obviously the media then jump on that, but then again I'll go to it, it's refreshing because then he does his media on Monday and I thought he explained himself extremely well, so he's backed himself up with it and probably put it under the bed and focusing on tonight's game. Yeah,
he says he wasn't being emotional, he meant what he said, he didn't go too early. He's had texts from people who are involved with the club saying, do you know what, no, fair enough, they needed that. So
I think they've needed it for the last 2-3 years because it's happened far too often, as he indicated. You know, he saw it from a distance. When Rangers are playing well, the whole team's playing well. Everybody wants the ball. Everybody, when you're 2-3-0 up, it's a lot easier when you're against you. But when you're at a big club like Rangers and Celtic, when things aren't going well against you, a lot of players have never experienced 50,000 people down your neck. You know, and you've got to perform every game. You've got to win every game, and it's just natural that one or two guys might not be able to handle it when it's not going the right way. So he's sort of saying to them, look, we need to get into that mentality where we're winning all the time, we're all working for each other. If a couple of you aren't handling it, it's up to the others to help them through the game.
Yeah, have you ever worked under a manager, Brian, that's made you raise your eyebrows in any way with any comment in the changing room, or he's come out publicly and said a few things?
I quite remember a game, I think it was Hibs against Raith Rovers, and we didn't play particularly well, and it was a couple of days before the Hibs Hearts derby in the cup, and Neil Lennon had a right good go at the players in the press that day. But we got a response. We went and beat Hearts in the cup, but Neil was one of those managers, his heart was on his sleeve. Again, he's probably one of the best managers I've had in my career because he was honest, and I liked that. It was refreshing that if he didn't like something, he told you. And I was just sort of that player. I responded to that because I've got the attitude when somebody has a go at me. I've got, maybe it's a bit of stubbornness about me, that I'll show you sort of attitude. That's just the way I've always been. I might have not been the best player in the world, but I've had that grit and determination within me. When somebody tells me you're not doing something good, then I get my back up a little bit and I'll just try and prove them wrong.
Did he blow his top a few times in the dressing room?
He did a couple of times. Even it was trophy day, we'd won the championship and we were playing St Mirren. I don't know if we lost the last game or it was a draw, I can't really remember. But he came in and had a right go at us. It was trophy day, we were going out to pick up the trophy and it didn't go our way that day. And it just shows you the standards of the man. Just because the championship season, we had wrapped it up, he wanted to win that last game against St Mirren. I think St Mirren won and maybe survived that season. I can't really remember the ins and outs of it, but there was ramifications of the game and he wanted to win and we didn't win that game and he let us know after the game.
And that wasn't good enough.
And that wasn't good enough.
Roughie, is there anyone that comes to mind?
Oh, I could sit here for hours. You know, managers wouldn't get away with what they got away with in my time. No. You know, it was just some of the stuff that they said to players you wouldn't get away with. I mean, it was just horrendous. Some of the stuff. Some of it was quite funny, as long as it wasn't you that was getting. As long as it was somebody on the other side of the dressing room that was getting it. I remember we were playing Rangers one day and they picked on a particular wee Bertie, that is, had picked on a particular player and he'd absolutely slaughtered them. And we were waiting to go out for the second half and we're all standing there and I was going, God, we don't seem to have 11 players. We don't have 11 players. He'd locked himself in the toilet. He couldn't come out. He'd just gone. He couldn't handle it at all.
Could he be scary 38 times?
Of course he could. Of course he could. Yeah. But as I said, as long as it wasn't you, it was getting there. It was sometimes it was quite funny.
Well, we are still in the middle of the transfer window. Fans' patience is getting thinner by the day. We want to know the most unexpected signings in Scottish football that comes to memory. I've got a few here just to jog your memory. Lubomir Moravcik from Celtic, reported to have been a past-it player, but let Henrik Larsson describe him as one of the best players that he's ever played with. Brian Laudrup from Rangers, Champions League winner, then chose to come to Scotland. A few others as well, but can anyone come to mind for you?
Paul Gascoigne. Paul Gascoigne, at the end of his career, came to Rangers and it was just a privilege to see him, you know, at that stage of his career. And he put in a shift when he came, you know, he lightened up. If you ask any Rangers players at that time, said he was just a breath of fresh air on the park and off the park.
Going back to the 90s, I think Celtic and Rangers had numerous players, but to get the De Boer brothers at Rangers at that time, I think was incredible. Tory Andrew Flo, and again, £12 million at that time at Rangers. But you've touched on him, Lubo, at that age, coming into Celtic. I remember watching him as a kid, he was absolutely fantastic. Left foot, right foot against Rangers, and I think it was his first game, and he just blew everybody away. Nobody thought he was going to be as good as what he was, and I think probably Celtic would have loved to have kept him longer.
Anyone who, maybe the opposite end of the spectrum, come in and you're very sceptical of them and then they end up to be the top goal scorer that season? Or who made a real difference, helped a team win?
Well, Celtic had a few. Celtic used to do the deadline, you know, all the supporters would be outside Parkhead about a minute before 12 o'clock. Robbie Keane.
Craig Bellamy.
One of the bigger ones who never really did it was Juninho. The Brazilian came, but he never really set the house on fire. But he was a name that everybody was anticipating something happening. But you know, there's been a lot of players coming. We sat here with Cammy Kerry yesterday, and some of the Dundee players that they had. Kenija and all. I mean, who would you have thought Dundee would have been attracting players like that? Caballero.
Roy Keane coming back to Celtic in his first game against Clyde.
Yeah,
you can't come away for that. That was incredible.
That was one of the derbies we're talking about. The debuts rather
yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, that's right. I remember that day at Clyde. I remember seeing Dougie Donnelly in the crowd. You don't know who Dougie Donnelly is. He was a reporter.
Before my time.
Yeah, he was a
old. I remember Dougie Donnelly.
He was in the crowd and that day.
We were saying on the last show, Brian, debuts from players that maybe didn't quite hit the ground running but going on to be club heroes. Anybody that comes to your mind?
Henrik Larsson.
He was on last.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
I think Chick Charnley scored the goal at Easter Road, if I remember correctly. He gives the ball away and Chick goes and scores a goal. So I think the Celtic fans gave him a bit of grief that day, but it just shows you never judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely, we need to give players time, especially in Scotland. We're not very fair to players sometimes. But on behalf of myself, Roughie and Brian, thanks for listening and thanks for watching.